At this stage, we've come a long way, researching, developing, and successfully launching your product. But while we've laid the groundwork, your business is still in its infancy. Now, we shift our focus to refinement, optimizing your supply chain, perfecting your listings, and ensuring your business grows without unnecessary risk. This is where we eliminate inefficiencies, fine-tune our strategies, and make calculated decisions that maximize profitability. And most importantly, this is where we introduce a critical concept, opportunity cost, ensuring every dollar, every unit, and every decision contributes to long-term sustainability. Let's take a step back and walk through how each stage of this business model flows together so you can see the full picture of what you've built.
All right, guys, welcome to the refinement class. Assuming that you have completed the first 5 classes, then we can move on to truly discussing exactly what the traditional business model is. So we start off over here, which is to start with a strategically innovated idea, or a USP, your unique selling proposition. This is basically the combination between the research class and the innovation class. When you have these two put together, you're going to come up with a strategically innovated idea. We would then go ahead and try to work with either a sourcing agent or a factory directly to try to negotiate a minimum order quantity based on a price point that we can accept, so we have decent margins to attack the market with. Now, we're going to execute exactly all of our plans. So this is basically putting your item on eBay. Once you have that full grasp of exactly how the eBay algorithm is going to work, then you already know exactly how to optimize your listing so we can execute this business properly. Now, at this point, we're just going to monitor the sales performance for exactly 3 possible outcomes. So you're going to have the desirable outcome, which will help us establish a proven, confirmed winner. So it is an item that sells multiple units for us every single day and totally warrants a reorder. Then there's going to be the less desirable outcome, where it doesn't sell that many every single day, but it could improve, or maybe we'll just phase out this item and we don't have to try it anymore. Then there is the bad outcome. The bad outcome usually happens when there is a significant shift in market trends. Something happened, maybe a pandemic, like very, very strange things have to happen in order for this to occur. Now, the reason for that is when you think back to our research class, this is what was taught in our research class for our initial steps in research, to go through this staircase first, and then to understand the 4 lenses of scrutiny, which is to be able to see the market for what it is, the product for what it is. You're going through all of the possible perspectives out there to cover everything that you need to know in order to develop a decent, unique selling proposal. So when you think of, once you have all of that knowledge and the way that you are doing your homework through this staircase, which is to go through the sellers, the buyers, the reviewers, and then to acquire fundamental, mechanical, technical knowledge of your product, and then go back to even revisiting all of the reviewers, the buyers, the sellers. There's kind of no way that you could do that much homework on a product when you're trying to source it and still come out with a bad outcome. That is my point of how safe this business model actually is. Once you get into the groove of it and you've developed your first core established item, the beauty of this business model versus the other business model is the retention of success. You've been successful for this item, and now we're going to keep that success and let it just keep running over and over for us in the background. So what do we do now? We go ahead and we start from the beginning again, and then we try to develop our next item while this one is selling. So when you think about the risk of our sourcing strategy, you have one that's already a proven mover every single day, and then you have another one that you're trying to build that's still in its trial and error infancy stages. Your product sourcing risk is only at 50%. So what happens when we have 2 items that is established? Your risk is now at 33%, and so forth. So when you think of here, right, we have 3 established items, it's now at 25%. So what happens if we have 19 established items over the years that we've worked on, and now we're working on our 20th item? When you look at it, it literally looks like this. I have about 19 good items in my store that I've established over time using this method of going back and rinsing and repeating with a USP and developing a minimum order quantity, making sure that I'm very conservative about my choices and trying to develop that core item. By the time I'm up to my 20th item, what is my risk? It's at 5%, isn't it? Right. So this is what I'm talking about. This whole system of doing business is where risk mitigation is baked into the system organically. And that's why doing this is what everybody does. And that is why this business model is the backbone of most major corporations. So before we move on, I want to point out that what we're seeing in front of us is what a sustainable and scalable business model looks like. When you're trying to develop and deal in tangible goods to sell them on platforms such as eBay, this is the way to do it with the least amount of risk, because you're spending way more time into your research and innovation and developing a unique item before you even hit the market, before you even spent a dime. The whole methodology of sourcing is completely different than what you are normally used to when it comes to reselling arbitrage. Because when you think about yourself in this situation, as you start to develop more and more core established items, you're no longer frantic trying to replace the sale every single time. Because if you sell something, I got to get something to replace the sale. If I don't sell something, I have to quickly find something that is going to sell. There is success retention in this business model, and that's what's most important about it, because it changes your whole attitude towards business. Once you have many established items in your store, you have a constant backbone of financial success that is flowing into your business. So you don't have to make decisions as pressured as you used to be. So when it comes to somebody trying to sell you something, this is a good item, you could step back and think about it and really take a breather on every single decision that you make in your business. Whether it is you want to develop more items or you want to come back and revisit all of the items that you've already established to try to make them even better. Either way, the choice is yours because the freedom is yours. To run a respectable business, you must prioritize opportunity costs, making the best decisions with the finite resources at your disposal: time, money, and effort. Ask yourself, what would I have missed out on had I taken a different path? Or how much better off am I now that I made this choice instead of that one?
Opportunity cost examples. Inventory management. 1. Over-ordering, tying up cash in excess inventory that could be used elsewhere for growth. 2. Under-ordering, miscalculating lead and transit times leading to stockouts and missed sales. Balancing cash flow, deciding whether to invest in new product development, boost marketing for existing items, or hold off until better opportunities come along. Storage and holding costs. Even free products cost you money when they're taking up space in your warehouse. Lack of space or cash flow could mean missed opportunities elsewhere. Refinement starts once your product is live. The goal is to enhance your listing, increase conversions, and solidify sales. You've done the groundwork. Now, let's build on it.
When you think about refining your business, it has to be based on meaningful data. Now that you're running this type of a business model, you have the larger sample size in order to have actual meaningful data to take actionable steps with. When you think about the previous times when you're doing the STR method, well, that is a collective understanding of what all of the sellers are doing on the eBay platform. But in this case, I argue that I am more concerned with what is happening with me, my business, and all of the track record that is relevant to my previous sales histories, as opposed to what's going on with somebody else's business. I want relevant data so I know how to adjust and move forward according to where I am and where I want to be.
Product refinement, leveraging customer feedback. Use reviews to refine the product itself, address common complaints, and make adjustments, e.g., improve packaging, material quality, instruction clarity. Optimizing descriptions to streamline sales and reduce customer service interaction times. Preemptively answer customer questions. Look at common customer inquiries or issues from past orders and proactively address them in your product descriptions.
So the next step of refining and improving our business is to work with the photos that we initially created for our listing. At this point, what you want to do is once your item starts getting traction, we want to reinforce the sales by improving on those photos. And to do that, we're going to take a look at something that I once said in the past. So today's example is going to be one of my personal products. And first, I'm going to show you what my photos would have looked like in its earliest stages as we progress on from a reseller type kind of photo into a professional company type photo. So here's what the product would look like had I just taken the photo on my own using either my camera phone or possibly a webcam. However, this is what the photo would evolve into had it been sent out to a professional photographer. Afterwards, this photo is then handed to the product image specialist for further enhancements. You could see that the adjustments were made where the background is a lot cleaner, the lighting is enhanced, and all the edges of the piping is also corrected. The original lifestyle photo taken by our professional photographer would have looked something like this with proper lighting and placement. Once handed over to our infographic designer, our new infographic photo would look like this with a header, some text, and a couple of bullet points. We would also have close-up shots to show the dimensions of the product, as well as some other infographic features to showcase the item, possibly a comparison photo, and ultimately an enhanced lifestyle photo that could be used as our hero photo. Now, if we put that all together, we have more of a themed looking listing as opposed to a generic listing. And then we finally move on to adjusting your price based on your sales history. Sometimes lowering the price can actually make you more money because you sell even more units. Even though you're making less per item, the extra sales can add up to more profit than if you raise the price and sold fewer items. We are constantly searching for the best profit to volume ratio, balancing how much you earn per unit with how many units you sell over time. This requires regular adjustments based on performance data. So at this point, I'd like to introduce you all to the cycle of business momentum. This is a graph that explains exactly why it is so critical that every single business that you start has to be sustainable and scalable all at the same time. Now, when you think of the research and the innovation class, we spent so much time to understand the market, understand our product, understand it from every single aspect of the sellers and the buyers and the reviewers, that it is highly, highly unlikely that this item is going to fail, and highly, highly likely that this item will start to gain traction. And once your item starts to gain traction, we start from the blue here and we move on to getting more visibility. When you have more visibility of your item, obviously this is going to increase your chance of sales. And once more sales and more people have it, it could start to build a brand loyalty. You move on to more opportunities from here. When your business starts to expand to other opportunities, more and more options are available at your fingertips. For example, after you build your first couple items, you could build complementary items. Once your item is starting to move and it's building up a really good traction, then you could expand onto other platforms as well as building your own website. So when you think about the things that could happen within the realm of possibilities, once you start expanding on more opportunities, you would just simply gain more traction, and gaining more traction would lead to more visibility boost, more increase of sales, and more brand loyalty. When you build more and more loyalty, your brand can start going from a generic brand to a household name. And this is exactly the cycle that happens when you start doing business properly. The success is going to beget more success. And in order to do so, we need to have the tools, the foundation, the understanding in order for this to happen. And that is the main key takeaway of this whole business course. This is the final infographic, which is basically the whole curriculum and everything you learned and how it all ties together and why it was put together in this methodical way. So when you think of how we said before earlier of mindset, research, innovation, development, execution, and refinement, when you work backwards, one can't exist without the other one. So starting from your mindset to put you in the right attitude to begin with, That's the only way you're going to want to do the research, because without the basis of research, we're not going to do the rest of the classes. So when you think about exactly what happens in between all of these classes, when we slightly zoom in, the mindset to research is where we're going to develop our realistic expectations about business and what we're going to do. From here, research to innovation is where we start to really understand the idea concept of market analysis. It's one thing to just look at a sea of products, but to really understand what is happening, you need from research to innovation and these building blocks to really get there. Now, from innovation to development, this is the creative problem solving. When you think about how to make money in this world, it is all about solving problems, which is things that people will pay a premium for about things that people care about. That's all it really boils down to. So development to execution, obviously right here is very simple, straightforward. It's all about our product creation. But after we've done all of this work first, then from execution to refinement is where we actually start implementing strategies. When you think about other business models where other mentors tell you to just go ahead, jump in and start doing it, you're jumping directly into the execution phase immediately. Now, when you think about all the classes that you just sat through and learned, this is how much information that was just skipped over. So literally, it means that you are just pushed into the deep end of the pool, not properly taught how to swim. So from here, we go over to the refinement and then we repeat this process. This is where we're going to have continuous improvement. So when you think about what your business is now, and then you're into your refinement process, you can now go back from the start and then repeat again from either the innovation area where we start to develop a complementary item to the item that we're already selling. That way we really build a brand following. When you do something like that and you offer a really excellent product, it stays with people. People remember your name. And the next item that you do and the next item that you do, they start to remember, you know what? It doesn't matter what it is. I know that this brand always does quality stuff. And that's really, really important for the cycle of business momentum. Or we could repeat this process by going all the way back to research and probably starting a brand new product line or a new niche or some other type of passion that you're also interested in. And that's how this whole curriculum ties together to create a scalable and sustainable system. So as we come to the end of our course on business fundamentals, I'd like to leave you guys with a few words, which is making money at its core basically comes down to one thing, which is solving a problem. So whether it's convenience, aesthetics, or an urgent need, people are willing to pay for solutions. So the bigger the problem, the greater the value. And so if making money is about solving problems, then making a lot of money is about doing it at scale. So that's why scalability isn't an option, it's essential to your business. The more transactions you're part of, the more opportunities you create, not just for profit, but for momentum. And momentum isn't something that you chase, it's something that you build. And that's why scalability is the foundation of lasting success.
Congratulations, you've built a foundation that most people never take the time to understand. From mindset to refinement, you now see the bigger picture, the framework for long-term success. But this isn't the end. This is the launch pad. With this knowledge, you're no longer just another seller. You're a builder, a strategist, someone who sees opportunities where others see obstacles. Whether it's a unique product idea or an untapped niche, you now have the tools to create real impact, to build something that reflects your vision and adds value to the market. And here's the most exciting part. This isn't just about your success. Every niche you explore, every gap you fill, every innovation you bring to the table strengthens the marketplace as a whole. A thriving market isn't built by one seller, one product, or one strategy. It's built by thinkers and doers like you, stepping up and refining the game. So don't just take part, lead. Push boundaries, innovate, find your lane, refine your craft, and leave your mark. Because in the end, what we're doing here isn't about making a quick flip. It's about building something sustainable. eBay isn't the enemy. This isn't the little guy versus corporations. When eBay grows, we all grow. More buyers, more sellers, more opportunities. It's not a zero-sum game. It's an ecosystem that thrives when we do. And now, it's your time to step forward and shape it.